Welcome to this session on Google Forms. In this session, we're going to walk through the process of creating a Google form. Before we do that, however, I kind of wanted to give you the big picture of why this is relevant and why Google Forms may be a tool that is relevant for you for use in your classroom. As you see here on the screen, we have this microscope slide use form pulled up. This is a form that I created in Google Forms. Keep in mind that you could actually open this on a laptop computer, on a desktop computer, even on a mobile device, such as a tablet computer, an iPad, or an iPhone, or other Android device, whatever it may be. But if you were walking around your classroom and you wanted to know, make some observation notes about how your students are actually setting up a microscope, for example, you could use this type of form. So you would actually enter in the student's name here. Obviously, you could choose a related date and then identify the related points that that student has earned on this related assignment. And so notice here on this form that some of these given elements have a little red asterisk by them. That means that those are required, and I can show you how to set that as a related preference in this. And then also to have this little comments box down here, so if you had additional comments you wanted to add, this comments box, however, is not required. If you notice, that has not been indicated there with the red asterisk. The big picture of this, though, is that it's not just for microscope use, but for anything that is more of a performance task that your students may be doing in the classroom. So think about the content area that you teach, and then think about where this type of observation measure might have relevance for you in your classroom. Let's change gears here a little bit. Now that you've seen what this form actually looks like, let's go to the process of actually creating a related form. To do so, I'm just going to go to the home page of Google, and in doing so, I'm already logged into my account. Now, if you do not already have a Google account, that is something that you will need to do. You'll need to actually create that account and then log into your Google account. Once you do that, you can come up here to these little boxes here. And what you want to choose is Drive. And once Google Drive is opened, you can see here at the top of the screen, I have both the microscope slide use as well as the slide use responses. And so what I wanted to emphasize with you from this kind of behind the scenes perspective is that you can track student responses. So if I toggle back over here to this slide that we were just looking at, and I'm going to put in here, these are my comments, and click the submit button. Oh, I needed to choose an actual date. Let's put a date in here as well. Just choose any related date and say submit. Now it says that that form has been submitted, so keep in mind I'm in the editing, I'm in the working mode of this form. So if you were in your classroom and you were walking to another group of students or another individual student, you could then say submit another response and it would bring up a clean form for you. But now let's go back to the behind the scenes perspective, and if we do that, notice back up here we have the microscope slide use for the responses. If I click on that, the data that was just entered in that form, notice, is automatically dumped into this related spreadsheet. This is an online form, so you'd have access to it really anywhere you have internet access. But now notice how nice that is, that you would have access to these student grades, and there are the related comments here at the right-hand side of this screen as well. So for every student, for every group that you enter the related information into, that would be populated here on this related response form. Okay, let's go back here to this kind of centralized location of Google Forms, and let's start where we want to create our own related form. So I'm going to click the Create button, and there's a variety of options to choose from. I'm going to scroll down here and choose Form, and once we do that, we should have a brand new blank document from which we can start. So let's say that we want to create a similar form to what we had just created with that microscope use form. So I'm just going to call this microscope use form, and we need to choose a related theme. You can scroll through all of these and find the one that is most relevant for your related purpose and your related need. I'm just going to do this red here, and let's say OK on this. And it's asking for our first question. Let's just put name in there, because it's often a good thing that we want to actually identify what the student's name is. And then we could choose for the question type. Notice there's a drop-down list, and there's a variety of questions that you can choose from. I encourage you to just kind of play around with these and see the different question types that are available. But because we're just looking for a textual response, let's just choose text. And here is where this will determine whether that question is required or not. So I'm going to put on this check mark in that, so that we'll put an asterisk by that. And let's say done on this. And that's as simple as it is to create our first question. Now we want to add another item, and let's do date. And let's just call this date. We want this to be required as well. And let's just say done on that too. Now let's say that we want a place for students to do something, or for us to evaluate them a little bit more completely. Let's do a grid here. And in the grid, I'm going to scroll down just a bit there. In the grid, let's initially say, let's come back over here at our other slide here. See what we had on our other form. So we had prepare the slide, 0 points, 2 points, 4 points, and 6 points. So let's do this by coming back to where we were, and let's say prepare the slide, and actually I need to move that down. I've put that in the wrong place. Let's call row 1 prepare the slide, and column 1 is going to be 2 points. Column 2 will be 4 points. Column 3, let's do 6 points. We'll just leave it at that. We get the idea here. And for the title, let's call slide preparation. And let's come over here to row 2 of this, and let's say your ability to put the water drop on there. So we'll call water drop. You get the idea. You could add additional settings there if you want. Let's say done and take a look at what that looks like. So you get the idea. We're basically creating this kind of radial button option that you could choose from to designate the related points. Let's also put down the related comments box in here as well. So let's call this paragraph text. Put comments in here, and let's say done on this. Now, if we needed to edit a question, let's say, well, we actually want this slide preparation question to be one that is a required question. It will prevent us from submitting the form if we click it without completing or without answering that question. So I'm going to put a check mark in that required question box and say done. Now, let's also come back up here to the top of the page. If you notice at the top of the page, there's a View Live Form button. This will actually allow us to see how others will be able to view our related form. This is I'm just giving you the basic overview of how to use Google Forms to develop your own form. There's a variety of other functions that you can include in that, but I don't want to get too complicated here so that we don't get too overwhelmed in the process. But let's take a look at our form. Let's say View Live Form. And we should be able to find our related form if it loads for us. And there is our related form. And so we see our related microscope use form, the name, and the related date, as well as the slide preparation. So in essence, that is how you create your own observation form that you could use on an iPad or you could use on a laptop, however you want to use that in your classroom. But ideally, it is intended to be used kind of from a mobile perspective. So from a mobile device, if you already have a tablet or related phone, it'd be very easy to pull this up and to have access to it. I'm going to toggle back over here, and let's do one other thing and take a look here. Actually, what I'm looking for is here in the top right-hand corner. So it says Send Form. So if you wanted to share this form with someone else, you would need to click on the Send Form button. And here is the link that you would actually use. You can just copy that paste, copy that related link, Command C or Control C, and that way you could copy that related link, put that in an email, either email it to yourself or submit it as part of this class, or email it to others who you may want to be able to complete that related form. But that's an easy way to get access to it on a mobile device, for example, by sending that link to yourself, and that way you could open that link on a mobile device and be able to complete that related form there. Hopefully that answers your related questions and gives you a good idea to create your own Google Form related assignment. I'll give you some more details about this related assignment, but this is the process of how to use Google Forms to create a related performance observation measure.